He is on the phone with us. He broke the souls of Penn State fans in the first segment with us. Now, I don't know if he can break a soul for Ohio State or Texas. The Cotton Bowl coming up on Friday is the other semifinal game down in Arlington, Texas. Bartoo, we saw firsthand the buzzsaw that Ohio State was in the Rose Bowl, where they jumped out to a 34-0 lead on the Oregon Ducks before the Ducks even got on the board in the first half. Is this team as talented in the Matrix as it seems and appears to everybody with their eyes?
Well, I mean, it was top three in recruiting, high school recruiting coming into the season, right? So there's a check box. They were top 25 in scoring efficiency last year. There was a check box. They have a 4-star plus defensive coordinator, box check. 4-star plus offensive coordinator. We all know how good Chip can be when he gets it going.
Yep.
And good Lord, I don't know about y'all, but it feels like he's got it going right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so as good as Texas has been, Texas is number 2 in total offensive plus defensive scoring efficiency. But they are still behind Ohio State. And after seeing what Ohio State has done to Tennessee and Oregon, good Lord, 2 top 10 teams like that, it's got to be bet Ohio State or bet nothing, wouldn't you? I mean, who's taking Texas in the point? Seriously, with a straight face.
Watching that Ohio State team front and center, that team is an absolute buzzsaw.
Dave, you've highlighted the trends that have kind of stood out, whether it's in scoring, offense, defense, the expected points, everything that kind of comes along that. What feels like the talking points over the last couple of weeks as it pertains to Ohio State is the coaching staff figuring it out. What is the difference in coaching expectation and coaching grades between the Texas staff and Ohio State staffs?
Oh, let's go in reverse order. Both of them have excellent offense and defensive support staffs. Okay. Both teams have very good special teams coordinators. Jeff Banks at Texas, one of the top 5 in the country. Ohio State, bordering top 20. So special teams coaching, I'd give a slight edge to Texas. Defensive side of the ball, you have Jim Knowles of Ohio State, and you got Pete Kwiatkowski at Texas. By the numbers, the better DC on the season and career, Texas.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah, Pete was good. I mean, he was good at Washington for years.
And Boise, and that guy could handle everything. He doesn't. You could go huge pace of play and throw 80, 90 plays at him. You could slow it down, David Shaw, and throw 60. He beat everything, and he had the best scoring efficiency defense by the numbers this year. Not far behind him, Jim Knowles at Ohio State. Okay, so they're 1-2 in defensive scoring efficiency, but from a career standpoint, if I was picking teams, building a staff, I'm taking Pete Kwiatkowski over Jim Knowles. Okay. On the offensive side, you got Steve Sarkisian, one of the best to call offensive plays in college football, top 5 coming into the season. And Chip Kelly's pretty darn good too, but he doesn't have the grade of Steve either. Now, on the season, the offense, though, has been better at Ohio State significantly. Okay. But where I think it all really breaks down, and I know this sounds nuts, right? Because people were talking about firing Ryan Day a little bit ago. But Ryan Day, he's lost to Michigan, but he hasn't lost games like Steve Sarkisian has. I think the big edge in this game, not only, you got your performance, obviously, you're favored by 6, but I'm never betting on Steve Sarkisian as a head coach to win it. His career hasn't told me that he knows how to win a big game. I mean, heck, did he even beat a top 25 team this year up until last weekend? No.
Nope.
No.
He didn't. And he tried like hell to give that one away. Right? I mean, seriously, they're up 16. I text my data partner in Tulsa, because we've been working on this together forever on the data side. And I'm like, oh, looks like this one is over. And he immediately replies, it's Sark. Never bet on Sark. And seriously, 3 minutes later, it's tied. And I see my phone buzz, and it's like, told you. Shut up. Nobody could have predicted that. But the point being is, I think the overall weakness in everything two top 10 recruiters, the top two defenses, a top 5 and a top 15 offense. But I still think Steve Sarkisian is not that guy at head coach. I will not bet on him when there's better teams against him.
You mentioned something about Ryan Day, and we had a text that came in that said, all 4 of these remaining coaches are historical underperformers. Can you ask Dave what the Matrix says about these coach effects? Ryan Day is an interesting one because the coach effect and in the way the Matrix is laid out is you take things like recruiting and overperformance when you beat a team that is recruiting better than you are or has, more wins under the belt. What does the Matrix say about each one of these coaches? Because Marcus Freeman losing to Northern Illinois earlier this year. James Franklin unable to beat the big boys of his own conference in Ohio State, Michigan, and now Oregon, where they lost in the Big Ten championship game. And what you just outlined with Sark, what is the coach effect rankings of all 4 of these head coaches?
Well, if we were picking teams, right? If I'm going off of what I have on paper of the 4 guys remaining, I'm taking Ryan Day first.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking. See now the next one, so Ryan Day we had him graded to start the season top 10 head coach in college football. Okay, with Franklin he's top 25, but with Freeman's only had 3 years. And so it's very, very difficult to grade a guy that really hasn't had the sample size of a Ryan Day, of a James Franklin. So, when it comes right down to it, I'm kind of splitting hairs on which guy that I would like. Dead last would be Sarkisian, right? He's never, even this year, he didn't outperform his talent. I mean, he had Georgia at home, for God's sake. The one chance he had to pull an quote-unquote upset and beat a top 10 recruiter, he had Georgia at home and got thumped, right? So of all the guys that I do not trust to get over on a single game, it would be Steve Sarkisian. I think Franklin and Freeman, I think if we sat down, if we were at McMinimum somewhere and we had a big old round table and we were all just talking about who it was, I bet you we'd come 50-50 on a bunch of P1s and us talking about it. But to me, the number one guy, and still there's trepidation with him because, again, he hasn't got over the hump. I think that's one of the cool things about these playoffs. Somebody's winning their first one. Somebody is getting over that proverbial hump, getting the monkey off their back. I'll bet on Ryan Day, number 1 out of that group.
All right. And, this year it was obviously not Oregon's year. The way that they lost after being the number 1 team in the country, 13-0. How far off are they in the Matrix from being a national championship team?
They're not. That's everybody. I see this. Oh, we got work to do. God, you were there, right? I mean, in March of last year, I outlined these 5 teams that were competing for a national title this year. The five that checked off all of the preseason performance boxes, right? Everybody that had a 4-star or better OC and DC, Oregon had it. Everybody that had top 10 recruiting, Notre Dame, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, they all had it, right? The previous year's performance, same 5 teams. Oregon was one of the 5 national championship contenders coming into this season. They just couldn't figure out how to put together an elite offense or an elite defense. They just didn't have it. I'm not saying they weren't very, very good, and I know they were number 1, but my concern as an alum walking into this tournament is they don't have a top 3 offense or a top 3 defense, and that team's never won. And so even though they had that number 1 rank and the number 1 seed, it didn't feel like this was going to be their year. I think for Oregon, they just got to keep recruiting, keep plugging away, and hopefully things click where come December 1st, they're top 3 in 1, if not both of those categories. Now they are a serious national contender. But outside of that, coaching-wise, player-wise, they're already there right now. It just wasn't their year.
Bartoo, always appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much for hopping on with us, and we'll definitely do it again before the national championship game.
Anytime, boys. Thank you.
There he is, Dave Bartoo, College Football Matrix.